Closer to land.
In Wisconsin, they used to pick asparagus in the ditches.
Oh yeah?
It would
Wild asparagus?
especially near the cemetery. But yeah,
Really?
yeah, you could.
When did you guys do that?
Oh, that was when I was second grade, I guess.
That would have been in the 40s, huh?
Let's see. I would have been 6 or 8. So yeah, would have been mid 40s. And we were back there for mom's mom died. But yeah,
Did it look like asparagus you get in the store?
yeah, it would just grow up.
Oh yeah?
Just cut it off and cook it.
Huh.
And because of the, well,
Okay.
She wants some of the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, the moisture that gets in the ditch, and they would just come up.
Did you guys do a lot of wild food picking, or back
No,
then?
not then. Dad always did, when he lived, all the wild berries and stuff he talked about.
Yeah.
And but they always had that, and cream to put on it, thick cloudy cream.
Yeah. Living off the land, they were eating better than lots of people.
Well, he used to think back on it, the berries and the deer meat and all of that. He said, I didn't know how good I had it.
Yeah.
Because, you milk a cow, you got the fresh cream and all of that kind of thing. But,
Well, did they still have milk delivery and everything when they were back then?
oh no, that was,
Or that was, I remember seeing that one picture.
That was Mom's grandmother.
yeah. Yeah, he had a,
What were their name? German name.
yeah, I don't remember that. But I remember seeing that picture. It was a horse drawn.
What was it?
Pekarsky?
No.
No, that was
Ben.
their stepdad, yeah.
What the heck? Maybe I'll think her. Yeah, she had 14 kids and only 7 lived to adulthood.
A lot of that happened in those days.
Yeah, what was their name? Walkleen. Wasn't that it?
That was her mother's name.
Yeah, so that would have been,
Yeah, you're
that would
right.
have been the name, yeah. Walkleen.
Yeah, I walk clean. Vachleen is correct.
Now, were they all Prussian? Were they all Prussians?
No, that was Grandpa's side. That was Linsdau's side.
Yeah.
Was Prussian. Now, the Wachleens, I don't know.
German or
You looked up a lot of that stuff.
Austrian? I don't know.
That I don't remember at all.
And then there was Dad's mother's side on the Scottish side. But I don't even remember meeting Dad's mother.
Yeah. When she passed away by then?
I think she passed away somewhere near when Mom's mom died.
Didn't they both die of stomach cancer or something like that?
Yeah, cancer.
Must have been something they were having or not having. I don't know.
Well, it was kind of a strange relationship there.
How's that?
Well, Dad and his dad, for one thing. They was, never were on a good standing with each other. His brother, Walt, it seemed to do all right, but I don't know what happened. They didn't talk about it.
Well, George lived with
Walt,
Walt and Charlotte,
for quite a while,
Du
yeah.
Bois, didn't
And we didn't go over there much.
he? He was kind of a. Did he have Parkinson's?
I don't know.
I thought I had a memory of that.
I heard that when Dad and Walt got out of high school, their dad kicked them out. You're on your own now.
Oh,
Plus, I don't know what else might have gone on. Teenagers and dads, you know.
well, he sure told some pioneering stories. My word. Living off the land.
Yeah, he was a deer hunter. Walt used to tell about him. Sounded like an automatic weapon out there. He'd follow a deer, cock and fire, and bam, 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 bam. But they had an awful time with their farm. It was a rock
Yeah.
farm, picking rocks.
Well, George was a mason, wasn't he? I mean, a rock mason.
Now that I didn't.
I remember seeing a picture of him and his brothers were making those rock foundations for barns.
Oh, that's.
There was a picture of them floating around in the family somewhere. You remember that?
I remember that picture. There was a bunch of people in the quarry looking thing.
I didn't see that. I know they did a lot of logging. Dad talked about cutting the white pine.
Yeah.
Those were pretty amazing trees. They were big and they were almost branchless till the top and straight. Cut those and got a lot of
Lumber.
board feet and a lot of pictures of them. They had like sleds. They'd stack the logs up
Yeah.
and the horses would pull them out.
Didn't they use up the white pine on the East Coast for sailing ships or something?
I don't know, but I know they wiped them out in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're like now, but when Walt talked to Dad about coming from Florida, because they were cutting timber in Wyoming,
Yeah.
he took off.
Off they go, huh? The next gold rush.
Well, at that time, Du Bois had that big mill,
Yeah.
and they had camps up in and there was a lot of timber, and the guys were making money. And
Was that all part of the tie hacking group?
no, tie hacking was way before that.
Oh.
That was when they cut ties in the timber with a broad axe. They actually formed them because they had the I think they were cutting the lodgepole pine because they were almost perfect size already. Just square up the sides with that broad axe. And Swedish immigrants came over, and some of them, and they would cut the trees down and cut them to the 8-foot lengths, and then cut the sides square and float them down, and they'd go on the railroad.
So Dad or Grandpa did more for house timber, or what was their kind of timber work for?
Oh, yeah, just for general lumber of all sizes, 1 inch, 2 inch, all different lengths, whatever they could sell, or orders that come in for. But they did cut some ties. When I worked for Hank in his mill, we had every size and length come out of there, whatever you could get out of a log. And we did cut ties. We'd get a bundle of ties, and they'd ship it out. I don't know what, probably to Union Pacific.
Where'd they ship it, to Riverton?
I don't know.
The nearest train would have been?
I never saw where Hank shipped, and I never saw a truck load of lumber leave that.
No kidding. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Same with the mill in DuBois. Where did all that stuff go?
Yeah,
It had to have gone to Riverton,
probably.
or that direction, or Lander.
Yeah. I
I
don't.
don't remember how far the trains came up there.
Yeah, all I remember is from the forest and the trucks to the mill and the piles of lumber that were come out of the mill. After that, I don't know.
I wonder if they ever discussed putting a train up to DuBois.
Never heard.
But you know what they did with the ties is they dumped them in the Wind River at flood stage. And floated them down to the diversion dam, I think it was. Wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they built that flume
Yeah.
up the canyon. It's kind of a what would you call it? Historical thing.
Him and I went down to see that flume in the Warm Springs Canyon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In 60? Because I was, what grade was I in? Second grade? First grade? You recall? When were you working at,
Yeah, I would have been
Mill.
in 60, yeah.
1960, yeah.
60, 61, and then in there, yeah, when I was between schools.
So I'd have been 8, 9 maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Went hiking down this steep canyon on the sidewall. Must not have been too bad.
Yeah, I remember when I climbed up the front of the butte in downtown DuBois.
Oh yeah, I think everybody tried that.
And
Remember where that butte's at?
Right.
In the center of town, that sandstone butte.
Yeah, they've got a mine or something.
That was
It's
like
all-
a
or a storage.
dynamite storage or something originally, or something crazy.
one day I decided to climb up it. And that's just humming a tune and just, boy, it was a few years later I lost my nerve. I would have never done that again. But at that point,
Yeah.
it just,
Do you remember what they stored or why they made that cave in there?
no,
I mean, it was old when we got there.
I never heard.
I remember stories like dynamite or big chunks of that bluff fell off while we still lived there, I think.
Probably.
But we used to climb on it.
Yeah. We used to go back on the hills and come home with those big chunks of agate, remember?
Yeah, so many rocks. Petrified wood from Frontier Creek,
Yeah.
pieces like that,
Oh, jeez.
just laying around.
Did you guys wander around a lot then? I mean, you didn't really drive anywhere, did you?
And do
When you're in DuBois.
yeah, we used to go back hiking the Badlands, we called them, and
Oh yeah, some of the best badlands in the country south of DuBois there.
but
You remember the old airport that was up on above the bluff?
yeah, I was never up there. But
He was just up there a few weeks ago.
was you?
Yeah, there was a horse race track.
The
Oh,
old chariot races.
up there.
But you remember Virgil? What was his name? Lived a couple of houses over, owned a small airplane. took Don Sloop and I and somebody else up in his airplane. I can still remember that. I had to be pretty young.
Well, Dad used to talk about that airport.
Well, he graded a new one west of town.
Oh,
They found a big flat area, and I remember he had the grader up there, and he graded that new strip.
oh, that was it.
Now, what happened to that since? Who knows? But, jeez, I think of some of the things he did. It's just, they were so resourceful.
Yeah.
So we were over visiting Jason last night, and he says it drives him crazy to try to get stuff done. Just red tape and bureaucrats. And nobody wants to agree on anything.
Well, we said Grandpa did road grading and trash collection. What else did he do?
Water commissioner, water and sewer lines.
Did you guys help him out at all?
No,
or,
we weren't.
or that was
He was
his.
a city employee, and what he didn't know, he'd call up the state engineer. The engineer would come up and look at what he was doing, and either yes or no. And he just slowly developed all these things. Their first trash collection. Nobody was even using the road grader, I don't think. And he learned how to use a road grader because it was all dirt streets. It had to be
It
graded.
still is.
Well, he was a self-taught carpenter, cabinet
Oh
maker.
yeah, could build houses.
I remember he had this little stack of black books. They were all carpentry manuals and
Yeah.
instructions, and they'd have things on like how to build a staircase. And he had it up here.
Oh, well, he had an engineer's mind. Where you got yours?
Yeah,
But I remember Jim likes to tell the story when they were working in the Forest Service in Du Bois, and they were going to build this building, and they had blueprints, but they were damaged in some way. I don't recall what. And the crew and whoever was heading the crew thought the whole thing was wrecked because they couldn't. And he actually redrew those blueprints right there while they were there, and they got it built.
So he knew how to do that?
Yeah, he had done so much building already.
yeah, he built 2 houses single-handedly.
They were just so resourceful.
One was board and one was cinder block. And then he built the cabinets that were in them, and he built cabinets for in his job in Du Bois. He could build
Anything.
anything, and it'd be good. Sturdy built. He tried to start his own business in Florida once, and
Wasn't enough of a businessman.
no, he wasn't. And
Mom wasn't either. They tried constantly.
he rented an old building of some kind and put up a sign. That's what he called it. STURDI built, BILT, sturdy built.
No kidding. That I
And
didn't know.
he even made wooden toys to
Oh,
sell, little trucks and cars.
Well, if you recall, when they moved to Jackson and he quit the city, he was getting paid $450 a month to practically run that city. Yeah. So they went to Heart 6 in Jackson that summer, and then found out they weren't permanently hired, and moved into town.
My day.
And then he got that job with Paul Hansen, making their cabinets and whatever they needed.
And then he put him to work on doing the rocks.
Yeah, he learned. Well, they gave him a big warehouse, and then for the carpentry. Well, there was another room that was full of these rock cutting machines, lapidary machines, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so he got a book and learned how to do it, and next thing he knows, he's cutting rocks.
I have a vague memory of that.
And polishing rocks. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Was that kind of the last thing he did?
Yeah. That was probably the best job he ever had, my opinion.
Yeah.
Worked by himself, made anything they wanted, invented stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty fascinating, actually.
And then when they all the brothers and the sister and the brother-in-law all took off for the Florida Keys to buy a fishing boat.
That was another adventure after Wisconsin. That was their first big move.
From Wisconsin to the Keys?
Yeah, they were going to go into the fishing industry.
Well, Dad used to talk about how he hated factory work.
Yeah.
And
He did some?
yeah, he worked in Oshkosh. He was at it's a big company that makes gears, transmissions. It's still a well-known company, and I think he worked at a furniture factory for a while.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that.
And when they decided to take off for Florida, of course, Mom's folks were not happy. He had a nice job in Oshkosh furniture factory. And now you're taking off for the Florida Keys to buy a fishing boat. And him and his brother and sister and they took off and went down there. And then they found out how much a fishing boat cost.
Can look that up online?
Yeah. They weren't.
Yeah. But they went back to carpentry, all of them.
Didn't they build a house or a building or something? You said on Marathon?
Well, that was the sister, her
Yeah.
husband, Louis, right?
Louis, yeah.
He became a successful constructor.
Yeah, they built a motel and a store. And,
Wait, so who's Louis?
He was Aunt Vi's husband.
Oh, okay.
Had been
yeah,
our dad's brother-in-law,
yeah. Louis Fenton.
and they made a real go of it.
Yeah, they did.
They had a store, and they were just better business people.
He was an ambitious guy. But they did.
Somebody used to say that Louis built houses so well that during the hurricanes, the other houses would blow up against it.
Yeah, he did. He was, but his daughter, Georgia, her and I emailed her
Yeah.
for quite a while. She stopped here lately. I don't know what happened there, but Georgia was a few years younger than me. But I started school in Marathon Key. Must have been 1945. And I started right out in the first grade. I don't know if they didn't have kindergarten or what, but this was like a one-room class.
Oh yeah.
And I remember Charlotte sent us a picture of that class. I don't know
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a newspaper. The guy was checking up the history of Marathon, and he sent this picture out, and he said, if there's anybody that's in this picture, I'd like to know.
Oh wow.
And Jerry and I were in that picture, and I never did contact anybody. And it was the teacher. She was a typical teacher, and The one thing I remember was I went over to sharpen my pencil on the pencil sharpener. And she come over there and scolded me about it because I guess I didn't raise my hand or what. I don't know what it was. But I never forgot that. 'Cause I felt that was not unjust. I was only sharpening my pencil.
The injustices of life.
But I always remember the keys. It was like,
Must have been virtually nothing there at the time.
well, it was a store here, a gas station, and then we used to go to different keys to go to different beaches. It was like being in one of those Caruso movies, or what was the other one? The
Swiss Family Robinson?
yeah, it was an island. You had the Gulf on one side and the Atlantic on the other. You had crabs in the parking lots, and you could see, the stingrays and the tropical fish, all of that. It was like a kid's paradise. It was just, we'd go down on the beaches, and of course, there was hardly anybody there at the time. It was right at the end of the war.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a base, I think, on Key West, Air Base.
Yeah.
And they used to fly, the fighter planes would come over, 2 at a time. And one high and one low. And Dad told me, he said, the low plane would fly fast and low and actually invite the shots. And then the guy coming high and above, he'd see where the shot come from. And that was what they used to practice, and they'd come right over Marathon like that, heading for Key West, I guess. And then there was crab adventures when Jim got a hermit crab, pinched him right in the, and it would not let go.
Huh.
And I forget, Dad got his pocket knife out and tried to cut it off, cut the claw. I don't remember how they finally got, and he's screaming the whole time. But he picked up the shell,
Yeah.
and he come out of the shell and he grabbed the palm of his hand like that. But, there was all kinds of bugs. Florida had everything, scorpions.
So did they build multiple buildings down there once they got there? Or what?
Small, I would call them beach cabins, sort of.
When was this?
It was in the 40s, 45. We were there. Well, I started school there. So we weren't there very long. A year and a half maybe, because I don't know how old I was when we got down there, but I started school. I went through that school year, and then Mom's mom got cancer. So we went back to Wisconsin, took the train back, I remember that. Mom had us kids on the train, and
It was you, Jerry, and Jim?
yeah. And Dad must have drove back or something, I don't remember. And we got there, and then I spent the 2nd grade in Butamore.
Butamore, Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, yeah. And because Grandpa had bought that tavern there, and it was him and Mom's mom were running that tavern, and I think she served lunches. They had a couple booths in there, Grandpa's tended bar, and we stayed at Grandpa's for a while, and then the folks bought or rent a house, I can't remember, in Butamore, and there was a little ways out of town was another one-room schoolhouse. I remember walking to it in the snowdrifts in the second grade, and
Uphill both ways in the snow with milk in your hands.
yeah. So then she died, of course, and then we decided to go back to Florida, but we didn't go back to the Keys. We came to a little town called Bellevue and decided to stay there. I don't remember what the folks did there.
Were you in Miami for a while?
No, just when the hurricane come to the Keys.
Oh, I see.
We had to go to Miami and stay in a hotel during the hurricane. Walt just got out of there. The water was coming over the highway when he drove to Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Waited a little too long, but yeah, we stayed in that hotel there and watched the wind blow the palm trees during that hurricane. But anyway, that little town of Bellevue is right in central Florida. I don't know why they decided to stop there. They must have got a job or something. I spent the third grade in Bellevue. And then north of Bellevue, I don't know, 40, 50 miles was Ocala, a much bigger town. And Dad found work there. So we moved to Ocala, and I was in Ocala from the 4th grade to the 9th. And then at the end of my 9th grade was when we moved to Du Bois.
What did Grandma and Grandpa do when they were in Ocala?
Basically, Grandpa did carpentry work of all kinds, and he built those 2 houses. And
Is that where he did the sturdy cabinets?
yeah, it was an attempt, but it didn't amount to anything. It was an old mill of some kind, and he got permission to use it to try to set up his business. And
His folks had a store, didn't they?
yeah, that was a tragedy. They had the store and the post office,
Oh, wow.
and the mill caught fire near that, and it spread, burnt down the whole thing, and they never recovered. They struggled on that farm.
Well, if the mill wouldn't have been gone, then would there have been anything left for them to do in the business? Was there?
It wasn't their mill.
No, and I'm saying, was the mill the main income for that place?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just wondering about that.
It's mills seemed to burn down when the timber ran out. And
Collect on the insurance as well.
but it caused them. I think they never recovered,
Yeah.
and they tried to make that farm go, and they lived off the land, you know.
How long did they have that farm for?
I really don't know. Whenever his dad came over from Prussia, it must have headed for northern Wisconsin for whatever reason. I don't know.
Now, did the original Linsdau that came with the kids, or were they born here?
I have no idea.
Because that newspaper clipping I saw said he came in 1879.
Which, you mean,
Dad's grandfather.
oh, his grandfather.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. they didn't share hardly anything about
For whatever reason.
their life, you know, Dad's life growing up, or they've just never talked about it. Never talked about his dad, or you know, a few things about hunting and fishing, and
Yeah.
but other than that, they just wasn't something they talked about. So there's a lot of things I never learned
I
about.
wonder if they suffered some prejudice. Because you remember that book we had, Jacob's Well?
Yeah, I tried to follow that.
That family changed the spelling of their name.
Yeah, and then a bunch of them ended up in Detroit.
I don't know where they were, who they were.
I couldn't connect. Dad said he had
Uncles?
uncles. He had an uncle and had a banana plantation in South
kidding.
America.
They
And
must have had, that one in that book probably was an uncle, I've always thought.
yeah.
Okay.
There was Grandpa, Dad's dad had brothers all over the place, and they didn't seem to relate or
Yeah.
have anything to do with each other. And Dad didn't seem to know him
Huh.
or have met with him or anything that I could ever tell. Mama had all the relations and all the visiting of the aunts,
Yeah,
and
they seem to know each other. Yeah.
the Wachling girls. There was Rose and Ann and Ida, and was there another one? I don't know. There
Any
was,
more coffee?
yeah, there was there was Ida, Mom's mom, and there was Ann. She married Ben Meyerhoff.
Oh, yeah.
Meyerhoff
Man, yeah.
was one of the original AAL representatives.
One that rode a horse.
Yeah.
You rode a horse to
Yeah,
meeting?
he's in Aid Association for Lutherans history books. Is one of their first field men, I believe.
And Grandpa Ben sold it
Thank you.
for a while too. I had an old AAL pin, but I probably lost it now.
When I was studying in Aid Association for Lutherans, they gave you a history book, and his name was in there
Really?
as their first field man.
Well, they were in Appleton, and they had a beautiful home across from a park.
Yeah,
And Anne was sort of the successful sister that married well, you know.
well, we went to visit them when we came out for your graduation.
Yes. And he was,
I actually met him for what memory he had left.
yeah, he was dementiaed by then, and but he was always how can I put it, proud of himself.
Yeah,
And he'd sit there, that thumb would hit the chest all the time. I always remember that. He'd sit there and talk. But,
had some history.
and after we were sitting there talking that time you came.
Yeah,
And I remember after a while he goes, points at Mom and says, "Who is this?"
yeah,
Ann had to keep telling him who Mom was.
yeah. I remember that. And the funny thing about why do I remember it? Because it was only a moment, hours, and that was all. But I remember it.
Oh yeah.
It might be because it was the first person I'd ever been around who had dementia.
Yeah.
It might be why I remember that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was odd to me.
Ann was fine.
Yeah.
But Aunt Rose, she
Yeah.
was something else. She was the one
What was her relation
sister,
to
Ida.
Mom's mom?
Sister to Ida and Aunt.
Yeah.
And she was the one that didn't do well. She married Andy,
Oh, yeah.
and they
Farm.
lived in a tar paper shack.
Oh,
But she was the most fun.
yeah.
She was always in a good mood and always laughing with Mom. And she came out to Wyoming,
I remember, yeah.
and Mom took her up that four-wheel pickup, and they got stuck on the mud.
Well, you guys lived in a tar paper, didn't you, for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where was that?
when in Du Bois, when the timber ran out, and the mill was shut down, everything, and nothing was going on. So the goodness of his heart, the owner of the mill said, these were the shacks that they used to put up in the timber so the guys could stay while they cut timber and didn't have to come back to town. They had a bunch of them. So he said, I'll move these down here in this meadow and you can stay there free. And of course they put in outhouses.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how'd you do the water or the outhouse?
Water was, I don't, by pail, pump. They probably had
I remember
From a
being
well
there.
or something?
That's all I remember.
something like that. Somehow they fixed up a water system, and we put in it was a wood stove that served as heat and cooking. And Mom got some sort of thick rolled paper. It was not quite poster board, but not brown paper. It was a little in between. And she covered the walls of that shack
Oh.
with that to keep, try to keep the place warm. And we had 2 beds in there. I remember Jerry and I slept in one, Mom and Dad in the other, and I don't know where you slept.
Maybe Jim and I.
Probably on the floor or something.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't know how long we were there.
Probably not very long.
I know I was I was in the sophomore class, and Jerry and I walked to school.
Now, do you remember catching trout in the Wind River there?
Oh, yeah.
The Wind River flowed right by there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to come home and grab the pole and go down there, see if I could catch one. Didn't have much luck, but yeah. And that's what I would do when I'd come home from school.
I remember a carnival came to town,
Okay.
and you took me to the carnival.
Yeah, was that the one where they had that single camel?
Oh, I don't remember.
That's all they had. Was that
Well, now you might be thinking about the
a different one? The circus?
circus in Jackson, which was truly a circus.
How's that?
It was like something from Eastern Europe, and it was somebody had seen an advertisement somewhere.
Oh,
in Jackson.
they sent a brochure that was
Yeah, I
fantastic.
thought this was fantastic, and it turned out to be something somebody developed from Appalachia or somewhere. And it was totally amateur, old army tent.
Yeah, it had one single ring and with a few.
Little dog and pony show.
They had seats, bench seats, and then when you'd start the show, they had a record player.
A bunch of circus kind of music. And I remember Dad turning to us and going, "What the heck is all that noise?" It's so bad. And then the trapeze lady on a little swing. It was.
And they had a camel.
Jackson, remember?
Oh, we had a scam just recently.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody put up a bunch of posters around town. Circus is coming to town.
Oh no!
Fairgrounds. call this number to buy tickets, and it was an Alaskan phone number.
Oh,
And nobody checked, like 907. Why?
Oh.
Yeah. And a bunch of people sent money out, and eventually
Oh.
they sent one of those text message warnings. Hey, by the way, you better try and get your money back because nobody has
coming.
rented the fairgrounds.
no
It was a
kidding.
big blow up.
Maybe it was the same outfit.
That's interesting because I remember the city apologized for the circus because it was
Yeah.
That's not the first time it's happened then.
They showed the
well, somebody actually came to town.
Yeah, that's great.
they showed the brochure that they had got.
Oh yeah.
And so when you looked at the brochure, it looked great.
I can remember people laughing about that for the longest time.
They had this one camel, and I don't know what other animals they had, but they made a big thing out of this camel.
When was that?
Well, that had to be late '60s, early '70s. You think?
Yeah, probably.
When did you guys move there?
Oh gosh, moved to,
We moved in '69.
Oh, to
summer of
Jackson?
'69.
I don't know.
So '69, somewhere '70. But it's a funny memory to have because and it was right there at the rodeo ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the donkey basketball I got wrapped in.
Oh yeah. They would bring these strange little things and then go on these circuit towns, you know. There'd be a quasi Globetrotters group and donkey basketball.
We had a home town team, so they decided as a fundraiser for something, and so us guys that played for the town team, of course, were obliged to take part in the donkey basketball. So this guy comes with a big semi full of donkeys, had padded hooves for the gym floor, and of course some of the guys were cowboys anyway. And so I got on, they were about so tall, you know, your feet almost touched the floor. You were supposed to ride around and pass the ball and shoot baskets. People showed up, you know, they filled the gym. It was a farce.
You gotta remember, this is a town of less than 1,000 people in remote Wyoming. And the only thing of any size was the gymnasium at the school. That's what you did.
I couldn't make my donkey move. He just stood there. So one of the cowboy guys come over and traded me. He had a donkey that moved around. And he got on a donkey. He could make it move. And you couldn't do anything, you know. You couldn't pass the ball. You couldn't do. And we puddled around for a while, and then it was over. It was sad.
Yeah, those they were like wandering minstrel shows, you know, just.
Did your parents, did they go to that or how?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they
Probably
did.
would've, yeah. There's nothing else to go to.
Well, Jerry and I were riding it.
Yeah, you would have had to been. I remember it barely.
Well, did you guys do the 49er ball and all that? The fireman's ball?
They had some things.
It was like a costume thing they had.
I remember they had
there.
Swedish Day. Remember that? They'd have a Swedish smorgasbord. They had that every year at the gym.
You're talking about Du Bois?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was from the old tie hack days. The old Swede.
Oh, and I remember when they turned the VFW building into a skating rink.
In fact, that's where the Boy Scouts met. So half the time we ended up skating in the skating rink for a scout meeting.
That was fun. I
We had
remember.
a pretty good sized troop
I remember some things about that. They had
for a while. Anyway.
a blow up little football,
Oh yeah,
and they were passing it, you know, while they were skating.
yeah.
And this one big guy, he was always kind of a bully.
Huh.
He caught it once, and he slipped, And he had the ball in his hand. When he slipped, he reached down to catch himself, and he sat right on it and busted it.
Well, yeah, the VFW hall is just off the main drag there. That would have been probably going north. And that was
Yeah.
the other place that they did things, because it was the only big room in the whole town.
And I remember another they set this guy up. There was about 3/4 of the round, there was a door. And there was a utility room. There was trash cans, stuff. And they said, let's have a race. We'll start here, go all the way around, and then the guy who reaches the door first is the winner. Well, they unlatched it. So when he hit the door,
Out the door, yeah.
he went straight into that room, and you could hear all this banging and it was like a movie.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He comes staggering up.
Yeah, they used to have the dances in there, the community dances, the community, they had a community rummage sale.
Everything at the VFW.
Yeah. It was kind of
Oh, they
interesting.
still do that.
Because people brought antique stuff. I mean, American pickers would have gone nuts over that place, probably. But, World War I and II stuff. You know. World War I was only 20 years before that, you know.
Yeah. Did they have any vets in town?
Two, I mean.
I mean, at the VFW, did they have many vets there?
Oh, yeah. One of my best friends lived with his grandparents for whatever reason. And his grandfather had been in World War I. And so, you know, they were all still alive then. A lot of those people.
Yeah, one of the first things we did when we went to Du Bois was go up on Togety Pass and see the moose.
Yeah.
There was always moose down off the highway. And
Yeah.
coming out of Florida, you know, that was,
They used to say that I called them Moonas. I was, well, what was I, 2 years old?
yeah, something like that.
The Du Bois, yeah. And then I remember going up in the winter, I think it was with Jim and his friends. Mom took us up there and we took bobsleds. And up near the top, somebody had put a rope tow. So, you know, they were trying to develop a little skiing thing, but we had bobsleds. But the snow was so deep that they would use one of those big snow blowers to clean the highway out, and it would be 10 feet high. That snow. So we'd get on the bobsled and come down, but you had to get off before you hit the highway. So you'd jump and you'd fly all over, and
And where was this hill?
Togety, somewhere in the
Togety?
middle.
Oh, jeez.
And there's kind of a big meadow area there, and I remember one flew over the road, lit, and went way out into this meadow on the other side. I don't know how they ever got it, but
Yeah, there were spots like that where if you lost your ski or something, it was,
because it was snow. But, I remember that, it was fun.
well, also we ended up in Montana for a while, for
Yeah.
about 3 months.
Oh, when was that?
Well, it was end of my sophomore year, and that was the year we rented the old stage station.
Yeah.
We stayed there, and there was a little small laundry next to it. Somebody was doing sheets for motels. Mom and I worked there.
Were you talking about Du Bois or Montana?
Du Bois. No,
The stage place was in Du Bois.
yeah. And then,
Yeah, you're talking about an original station.
Oh, really?
We actually lived in it.
somebody, yeah, fixed it up and rented it
In
out.
Montana in a stage station?
No, this was
Du Bois.
Du Bois. And Mom and I worked in this little laundry. Somebody that did sheets for motels. Dad went off looking for work. So he found a guy that was cutting timber in Hamilton, Montana, which is south of Missoula. So we said, come on up. So we went up, and they found a big 2-story yellow house to rent for hardly anything, like $30 a month. So we went in there, and the stove, the kitchen stove, burnt coal. And there was a coal shed connected to it. And you go out there with your bucket and you break up some of the bigger chunks, bring them in, get your fire started, and you heat your house and you cook your dinner on coal. And I don't know why they had coal there, if they had mines there, I don't remember. But anyway, across the alleyway was a dairy, and they had buttermilk for 10 cents. So we had plenty of buttermilk. And then the guy's the plot of timber that he had, either it was ran out or it was snowed out. I don't remember which. Here was Dad all of a sudden out of work again. So we get a call from some of the people that we knew in Du Bois timber,
The Annans.
in the Annans, in Hamilton, Wyoming, down on,
No, Hannah.
or Hannah.
Oh, that's right. You guys were in Hannah.
Yeah,
Books I published as one of the ghost towns talks about.
yeah. And so they said, come on down to Hannah, because they're cutting timber in,
Yeah.
where was
An
it?
idea what this was like.
Oh, yeah, that place is like a nothing.
So I had gone half my junior year in Hamilton and the other half in Hannah. And then my senior year in Hannah, and I graduated from Hannah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Hannah, the coal town.
Now, Hannah's probably my first memory.
Mm-hmm.
And how long were we in Hannah?
We were,
Went back to Du Bois again after that, right?
yeah. Yeah,
A year?
Well, a year and a half for sure, because I was there for half a junior and all of my senior
In
year.
fact, you worked in the woods, didn't you, when you were in Hannah? A little bit? Or did you?
Yeah,
Thought you did.
yeah. It was in the summer of my junior year, and there was a guy that had a log truck, but it wasn't one of the big ones. It was a smaller one where they loaded the 8-footers sideways, like that. And he had a contract, and he could go up there and load up the 8-footers, bring them back down to the, where the heck was the mill in Hannah?
That I don't remember.
Must have been what they used to call jippos, guys that would set up little,
Little ones?
yeah. Anyhow, he hired the neighbor boy, and he come talk to Dad, and he said, the neighbor kid quit me. And Dad says, well, I got a boy. So I hired out, and the guy come in the morning, I got on the truck. And we go up to the woods, and he shows me, he had a crane, in the truck, a cherry picker, and had a cable, and then a regular tong. And then there was a rope connected to that. And what I would do is there'd be a pile of logs, 8-footers. I'd pull the tongs on, and the idea was to catch the center of the log, and then he'd start the crane and he'd pull it up and drop it, and we'd just load the truck that way. I'd pull it back down, and that was my first summer job. And I had to hop around on the logs and not get myself killed. And you kind of, when the log would get up by the truck, you had to pull it, away from the thing so it could. And he had a hook thing up there, and he'd pull them on and drop it. I'd pull it back down. We'd load the truck and go to town and probably make 2 loads in a day. And I don't know what he paid me, but I stuck to it. And that was my first job, loading that.
Remember what the name of the mountain area was that you were logging?
No,
Like Elk Mountain or
no, I don't
something
know.
like that?
I was hooking pups, as they say.
But then
Really wasn't pups, though. It was a tong.
logging business must have faded, and that's why they went back to Du Bois again?
Yeah,
It was getting better or something?
I don't know. Of course, Mom got the job at the school, and
Well, when did they move to Dunor? When they came back?
yeah, because that was when I think Miller's hired me that summer.
Yeah.
So I wasn't up to Dunor very long. I was out on the Miller's ranch.
Oh, you were? Oh. I remember some of the Dunor stuff.
I do too. I think I helped a little bit in digging that.
It's quite a, yeah, that's cesspool. When you're driving to Du Bois, you cross the Dunor Valley. You can't miss it. And there might even be a sign there.
You look straight up to the Ram's Horn Peak. It's a picturesque.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I've driven through it, I'm sure, several times.
But we lived on a homestead. Pump water, outhouse. Dad got some wild idea to put a cesspool in there. And we dug this thing all out and then left. And years later, when I was in high school, we went back, or I went to visit a friend that lived up the Dunor because
Oh yeah.
his dad was caretaking a ranch. And we drove by the old homestead, and everything was gone except that hole.
Well, they took that house out?
Yeah, they took everything out, and that hole was still there.
Well, there was a ranch at the end.
That would have been 68, maybe.
Yeah, what was
Well,
it?
the Picketts.
Picketts,
that
that was
ranch.
it.
Yeah.
I remember that. I went to school with her. Her name was Margie.
Yeah.
Margie Pickett.
And Bill Pickett, that was Jim's age, I think. I remember they took me up there with, I forget who, and we rode calves at their ranch.
Well, there's still old ranches on the river as you drive towards Du Bois from
Oh, yeah.
Moran.
There's dude ranches, all kinds of. There's a lodge up.
Togety Lodge, you mean?
No, there's one up, way up. Is it Horse Creek Road? Somewhere up there. It's a lodge now. I've looked it up.
Oh, really? Oh.
A tourist lodge.
I've always thought Du Bois would be a unique Western town for unique Western experience because of the mountains and the Badlands.
Well,
nobody knows how to promote it.
Go on the Wyoming website, tourist website, and just look. They got all the areas up there, and you pick Du Bois, and then click on places to stay.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many of those ranches run dudes.
Oh yeah, still at it.
Yeah.
Gives them some income anyway, because I've heard the town is pretty lean.
Yeah, they've recombined the high school and the elementary in the middle.
Oh, are they?
I think they
Well, they're
tore down
dying.
the old school.
Yeah, well, I met with Don this summer after the fire. I happened to be going through
Yeah.
there and met him for lunch in one of the
Who,
cafes.
Don Sloop?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, he last year he came down because he needed to drop off his vehicle for an airport ride, so met up with, chatted him for a couple bits.
I got an email or a Facebook about an old timer that died.
Bill Leesburg.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
I remember the name, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I know. They were ranch people.
Yeah, Leesburgs
But,
seemed to be.
I didn't know him much. Yeah, Don lived 2 houses over from us. We were real close friends. Burned down the neighborhood a couple times.
Yeah, he was telling me about that because they had the fire. So
Yeah, I burnt the part of the back of the what was the rustic pine bar guy, and there was an ice house in the back, and I don't know if they used it anymore, but it still had the sawdust.
Yeah,
And we were burying. Was it you and I?
I doubt it was me.
We were burying. We'd light a firecracker and bury it in the sawdust and watch it.
Caught it on fire. Right?
And there was a fire behind the.
rustic pot.
Well, I remember, what was his name? Scott Peterson, the Petersons. And we went to visit them. They lived on a ranch towards Riverton.
Yeah, I remember the Peterson brothers.
We were playing around in these old vehicles, probably smoking cigarettes or something, and lit the seat on fire, and he poured probably some kind of fluid on it, thinking it would put it out, and he said later on the whole thing caught on fire.
Yeah, and in Florida, Jerry and I burnt the field across the street.
Oh, so that's not the only firebug. Yeah, Don was telling me about your pump fire truck. You had to hook the hoses and had multiple and crank it. And
Well, yeah, the little toy one I had, but we used paper boxes so we didn't catch the place on fire. But the other thing is you're throwing matches in the grass, you know.
Remember, all the fire trucks showed up in Florida, put out the field, and we mentioned to Mom that we were out in the field with matches. She says,
So by the time she got to me, it wasn't her first time.
oh, just another one.
Oh, my word.
well, we used to camp. Well, Jerry, when we got a little older, Jerry started studying camping. He got books out of the library.
Camping.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'd go out, find a spot, and camp and cook. And build a campfire.
Yeah.
Put the rocks, do everything correctly. He had the book. Because we didn't get into scouts. In fact, our church frowned on the scouts because of their oath at the time, I think. And
It
so
would be understandable for them, yeah.
we did our own camping. We built huts out of palmetto leaves
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It was like a jungle down there. They had vines and we'd swing on them.
And that was in the Keys?
In Florida, in Ocala. Yeah. There was a little woods next to us. We had the paths all through it, and we'd go, and there was these vines that would they would go up through the branches of the trees. They were like a water vine. You cut them, and you could drip them and drink the water out of them. But they'd be long. Some of them would be really long at the bottom, and we'd cut it off and then pull it back and climb up on something and play tars and then camp out.
The aspens up above Du Bois, there'd be some of them falling over, and you'd walk up that one and grab one of these thin ones and jump on it and just bend over
Yeah,
onto the ground and let it go.
a friend of mine and I did that in Florida. Climb up a tree and then grab the thin one, and it was cool. We did more stuff as kids, I'm telling you. Kids nowadays just can't hardly imagine the stuff we did every day. We'd go around. Huh?
If it doesn't have an iPad, it doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Chase around in the Badlands.
We'd go out in Florida and Ocala. Two guys would go around to and you didn't knock on the door, you yelled. Can you come out? And we'd gather the group, and then we'd go up to the field and play ball or football and just a different.
It wasn't organized
No.
things, so you made your own.
Ride bikes, roller skate, you name it. Go hunting through caves.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, oh man.
What's your earliest memory?
Huh?
What's your earliest memory that you remember?
Earliest?
Yeah.
It would have to be Florida Keys, I guess. I remember, like I said, the crabs. I remember the 7 Mile Bridge. You'd go across there, and because you could see over the railing, and it was clear, crystal clear down to the bottom. And the earliest, gosh, that would be hard to say.
Where were you and Jerry when where you guys slid down the snowed in?
Well, that was when we were back, and I was in the 2nd grade, and
So that was in Wisconsin?
yeah,
Okay.
there was underpasses for cows, so they could go under the highway. Well, in the winter, they would fill up with snow, and then there was you went down. Well, it would kind of freeze, and you could get on there and slide. Well, we slid down it, and I couldn't get up. Jerry got up, and I couldn't get up. So I was picturing the cows coming while I'm in there, And he went down to the corner store and got somebody and come back and reached down and pulled me out. But I do remember that scary moment, being caught in that cow underpass. Just sitting there waiting for Jerry to come back. But down on the Keys, I would say, yeah, the 7 Mile Bridge, the crabs, and I remember the dynamiting. They used to dynamite the coral because it was so hard. And when they want to build a spot, clear something, they dynamite it. And I remember one time we were out by the highway, there were little pieces falling around. They misjudged a little bit. But I remember that, and I remember the school, of course. And I remember mosquitoes, and picking up coconuts on the beach. And Mom and all of us, Mom and Aunt Charlotte, and us kids, we went to one of the other keys and went down on this beach. And we went out. They had sandbars in Florida. You could sometimes, you could walk out for 100 yards, well, maybe not 100, and you'd still be knee deep because the sand. Well, we got this one beach had a sandbar out about, I don't know, 25 yards maybe, and it was dry, it was like a sand island. So we all waded out there and got up on the little sand island for fun. And this big fish started circling the thing. And Mom said, "That's a barracuda." So we're all scared to death. She gets us all over to one side toward the beach. And when the fish got on this side, we all ran and made it back to the beach. And I always remember that.
Didn't you say Grandma got charged by a barracuda once?
That might have been that story.
Yeah.
They're very aggressive.
Yeah, it might have come around again. I don't know, but that was a scary moment. to think that a fish would circle you like that.
After.
And I remember my cousins, Georgia Jean, we called her Georgia Jean, and then Freddie Fenton. And then there was it two more kids? Or
Remember
Three.
Georgia?
Yeah,
You're talking about the Fentons, though.
yeah,
Who were they? Oh, it was Levi and Louie's kids.
yeah. And we were always doing things together.
Well, those three must have been a lot older than Georgia. I mean, younger.
Yeah, they were.
Because I met them once.
Yeah, they came later. I didn't know them. That painting, her sister was an artist. She did that painting of the two, Candace and Alice, and she did a chalk
Oh, yeah.
from that photograph.
Well, I remember she worked for Hallmark.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
sure she
that.
did, yeah.
But Georgia Jean and I were, and Judy. I'm forgetting about Judy.
Yeah.
There was and Charlotte in the mix. So there was Walt and Charlotte, Merritt and Dorothy, and Louie and Vi. That was the clan
Yeah.
that went down to the Keys. And so Charlotte and Mom and Vi would pack up the kids and go to the beach or something, you know. And I remember you'd look at, your back would be covered with mosquitoes. And we'd come home and Mom had the chenille bedspread. And we'd lay down and scratch our back on the chenille. And just something, and then we'd be peeling the sunburn, you know. That was another thing I remember, until you'd finally get that permanent tan, you know. There was no such thing as a suntan lotion. It was for suntan. It wasn't for skin
No
protection.
sunscreen.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things I remember from the Keys down there. And
Which one of the boys threw their bottle out the window? Was it Tim?
that was Jim.
Jim?
We're going across the 7 Mile Bridge, and he's still got the bottle. He's standing up in the seat, which is taboo today, of course. And somewhere along the way, we had open window, you know, no air conditioning at that time. There went the bottle. Mom says, "That's it. No more bottle." He didn't get one either.
Oh, when he was little? Oh, he's just flung it out?
And that was out in Florida.
And Mom says, "Okay, that's it." You threw your bottle away. And he went off the bottle after. So, but we never. I don't remember going into Key West. I don't know where we went when we crossed that 7 Mile Bridge.
Was that bridge originally a railroad bridge?
I think.
I know there's a story about a railroad bridge there.
Yeah, I think that's two different things.
Yeah.
The guy built a railroad in order to connect with the Panama Canal. He figured if he built a railroad there in Key West, when the ships come through the Panama Canal, instead of going up the East Coast, they could come to Key West and unload onto the train and go.
Oh.
And it never panned out. And then the tornado of 35 destroyed the railroad. I remember that's one of the first things we saw when we came to the
Tornado or hurricane?
Hurricane, yeah. And well, you could see this rail like this sticking up out of the water. That was from the 35 hurricane.
Ended up, huh?
Yeah. Can you imagine wind strong enough to twist a rail?
So when Grandpa went off to look for work, he just literally said, "I'm out of here," and packed up the car and headed out, and you get a phone call, or how did that all work? I mean, now it's like I can't.
I don't know if there was one of them went down first.
Or a friend,
Yeah,
one would go or friend would, they're making money and off they'd go. It was just like a gold rush. Wherever somebody was making money, that's where they went.
yeah. Well, during the Carter administration, there was a lot of that. Houston was like, people were flocking because the factories down there, plants had permanent hiring signs.
Yeah.
Just we're hiring, and people would take off, leave their houses. And then when the thing died at Houston,
Off to the next place.
that's what the people in the timber were doing.
Yeah. It was kind of like a gold rush. Wherever it was opening, that's where you went.
Now it's oil. You want a job, go to the Dakotas now.
Yes.
It's just, and people that take those kind of jobs, they're seasonal. And seasonal jobs, you make it big when you make it, but then you're out of work for a while and you eat it up, and you never get rich.
Kind of levels out, or you can scratch by.
But the thing is, you have great adventures.
That's for sure.
Otherwise, it'd have been a boring life.
It's a steady job is good. You can make plans. You can build.
Yeah.
You can have security, but you have no memories. Not the kind we have.
Yeah, that's for sure.
From Florida Keys to the Wild West to California.
You're one of the few that's been able to go back to the old homesteads.
Trudy made it back to Butamore, where I was born.
Butamore means Hill of the Dead.
It's French,
Indian.
Butte des
French,
Morts.
yeah. From Indian Wars.
And
And that was in
Wisconsin.
it was a graveyard.
Yeah.
And the Indian word was Maspaquatino. And the only reason I remember that, because when you're a little kid and you hear these things, it sticks. So Butte des Morts was French, Hill of the Dead, and the Indian word was Maspaquatino.
Wow.
And it was on a plaque right in front of the tavern.
Do you recall if it was French and Indian War or was Indian Wars?
I know nothing about a war. I just know it was a
Or
graveyard.
just a graveyard? Because Grandpa put a
Skull.
place, like vacation cabins, right?
Oh yeah,
On the lake, and then digging up, he digs up this skeleton or a skull.
He put it on a board and put it up in the tavern.
Part of that cemetery.
And he had a stone axe head about that big,
Oh, jeez.
and it was it had a groove in it, that they found there. And other people found bones digging holes for outhouses. They found Indian graves. Of course, today they really have a fit, but
Well, and years ago when we first got married, we went to visit a lot of Indian mounds in Wisconsin.
oh yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
They make these animal-shaped mounds.
Indian history there.
Oh, in Wisconsin? I think
Yes.
I've seen those in Ohio or
No,
something.
they were in Wisconsin.
And,
That's where we got married
oh.
the first year and a half.
And a pyramid is there.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like in South America.
Yeah.
Those type. There's one in Wisconsin. I don't know if it was dirt or stone, but there's pyramid. There's those mounds shaped like lizards or whatever.
Right.
There's a area you go to. It's like a state park type of thing. Yeah, they had that there. What the connection is?
They must have had, they had to have enough good weather and enough food to afford to do other
Yeah,
things. Otherwise,
Yeah.
how would you do it?
they were, like the mountains are this high, and they're shaped. I don't know if what the idea was, that the gods could look down and see these.
No, they busted out their drone.
Yeah. Somehow they seem to know what it looked like from above. And that's where
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
they talk about the ancient aliens on TV. The aliens could see it from their rocket ships, but anyway. Yeah, in Wisconsin, they had that stuff. And you wonder, it looks so similar to what you see in Mexico, and the mounds and the pyramid shape, and the connection with Egypt. And you always wonder about that. What is that connection? When did that happen, that people built pyramids in these different places so far apart?
And the ending of your story was when you guys got to Du Bois that last time, and your mom says, "This is it, we're not moving again." She got a job with the school district, and your dad got a job with the
Yeah.
city.
Well, that was when they were up doing our.
Yeah, but I mean, that was it when they made that last Du Bois stop.
Yeah, they settled down a little bit there for a while.
So they went back and forth more than once to there? Or? Oh, geez.
Well, from Hannah back to Du Bois.
All right.
So after we graduated from high school, and then they ended up down in the Dunor Valley, and I went out to work at Miller's on with honey production. He was a, what do you call him? Honey producer. And that was quite a summer. I rode horses almost every night, and helped him bring a cattle herd in and cross the creek with the herd, and I loved that, man. I could have done that. Was that?
Your Wyoming cowboy days.
I should have been a cowboy. I had a Western hat, and he'd let us saddle them up, ride around, and because they want to keep their horses in shape and used to being ridden. So he'd let us go riding when we wanted to after work. And so I spent the summer out there. Then I went off to St. John's College that fall.
So tell me about the college. You went out there. Where is that?
Winfield, Kansas. It's about, 50 miles south of Wichita. And a small town. And it's one of the Concordia, at that time, it was one of the Concordia colleges of Missouri Synod. There was there was one in Seward, Nebraska, Concordia, Missouri, and Portland, Oregon. And, anyway, St. John's was one of them. And they had a high school, what they call the academy, boarding school. And then the college was a 2-year junior college type. Actually, it was, first and second year college. And I signed up for the ministerial program. And they had a teacher program and a business program, and I think a couple of other things you could take up, studying teacher program. And I managed to get through it, got my associate's degree. But the college was, I don't know how old it was. It was made from this gray stone blocks, the old style building, and I stayed in the dorm that first year, and it was just a typical college atmosphere. It was a little different. Some people said didn't like some people disapproved of it in the Synod because they were used to their colleges being just for church workers, teachers and ministers and deaconesses and so forth. But this one said, well, we might as well have a Christian college for business. And then they said it was a party college, which it wasn't. But it was a little looser, you might say, because there were people studying for other, but we had regular chapel services, which you were expected to be at, and there was always a bond between old Johnnies, but they closed it down in '86. But every year they have the Johnny reunion. I finally went to one, my 50th reunion, and that alumni association has gone on ever since. They raised, every penny they raise is for scholarships.
Wow.
And I get a newspaper from them and stuff all the time.
So you went there to be a minister?
Yeah, I went to be, I really wanted to be a missionary. I had these visions of being a missionary in Africa. And I had no preparation, I had terrible high school experience. I don't know how I even got accepted. I almost got sent home the first semester. Because I had no concept of what I was doing. In high school, I really didn't accomplish anything. And the mid-semester grades came out, I had 3 Ds. So it woke me up, and I started studying night and day. And by the end of the semester, I had a C average. Well, I learned later that they had discussed sending me home, and one of the professors said, well, he's got a C average, so they let me stay. But what happened was, people who hadn't gone to the academy and had sort of prepped in high school, they took a 2-year course, and those who came, like I did, had a 3-year. Well, the year I came, they took away the 3-year and made you take it in 2. And I was taking Latin, Greek, German, and English at the same time.
Oh boy.
And there was courses like physical science and, a mix. Anyhow, I got through the 2 years and got my associates. Well, that year they had built what they called the senior college. They wanted people that come to the seminary to have a degree. So they built the senior college, which was a very expensive and controversial school. And then you were supposed to do your junior and senior year there. So I went, and somewhere near the end of the first semester, I was taking a course called Human Body, and they were doing things like all the amino acids and all of that, and I was just lost. And finally I thought, I'm not cut out for this, for ministry. And I dropped out, went home. And then I went to work in the sawmill. And then I got a call from my old roommate from St. John's. And he had decided to go to a Baptist school in Chicago. And he said, why don't you come? So I did. I went and I took the second semester, because we had thought that maybe the Baptists had a better program for missionaries. Well, I found out that I didn't believe the way that Baptists did. So I dropped out of that, but I had a good experience in Chicago, 3 months. I learned about Chicago and Moody Bible Institute. And then I went back home and went to work again, and then the Late Training Institute thing came up. And I thought, well, that'll work. So I went and took the two years of that in Milwaukee, went out to California at Fair Oaks Church as assistant. That lasted 4 months, because I wasn't cut out for that kind of work. And then they tried to get me a job in construction, and instead I went down to San Francisco because my girlfriend was down there. That was a big mistake. But I got a job down there, and then I got a letter from a guy at the Bethesda Lutheran Home in Wisconsin. Says, we can use you here. And so I packed up. I had a job delivering for a title insurance company. That big triangular shaped building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was delivering to real estate offices. And I was doing real good. And then I got that call from the guy, and I went work at Bethesda, and that's where I met her. And
then everything improved.
Yeah. And then I come out here, I got word about a job at Home of Guiding Hands in Lakeside, and that lasted 2 years. Then we went up by our folks, and then we got a job at another home for retarded in Ross, California. It was the Cedars. And that was a live-in job. We had Trudy at the time.
Made $1,000 a month.
Huh?
I said we made $1,000 a month.
Yeah. And you had to leave on the weekend. I guess because they wanted to come and snoop. So we'd take off and stay at a motel and had a great time on the weekends. We ran around Northern California to the different sites. But by the money we made and not having rent, we were able to buy that little greenhouse.
Oh, yeah.
And I made a down payment on that. And then what did I do? I went to work for the laundry. And then he got me trained for the cleaners. And then from there we came out here. And I was out of work for 2 years.
Yeah.
Went to Coleman College. I got that inspection job for 13 years. got on disability, and here I am.
Happily ever after.
4 kids and 9 grandchildren.
Yeah, my word.
9 grandchildren.
Think about that.
Think about the production. Oh boy.
That's something.
Camera's just had about out of gas here.
Yeah, you got to the end of his story.
Oh, good. Sorry. Couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
Got all the way to here.
I got all the way to here, retired, and
You're living the good life.
yeah, well, if I could get over this crud I got.
Yeah, you're in Southern California. It could be worse.
Well,
Yeah.
when he lost his job in Jackson Hole, working for Jack Stone,
Yeah.
we had to sit down because we had just bought that new Boise Cascade house. And we said, as long as we're going to be poor, we might as well live where the weather's good.
Yeah.
And I knew the school districts were pretty good, and college was cheaper here if you're a resident.
Yeah.
So then we decided, we sold the house and came out here.
Oh yeah, we were loaded when we came out. We got the money from the house and 2 houses. We were getting payments on the one house, and we were getting 16% interest on our money from the other house. But I was out of work for 2 years and we ate it all up.
Yeah.
And then I got on at X-Scribe, and another 13 years at X-Scribe. And then I got on disability, and she had a great job at the school all those years.
And when we found out that we were going to have another baby, everybody said the water was bad in San Diego not to drink it. Well, I drink anything.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor and he goes, it's not the water. You're going to have another baby. And I went home and I says, this is it till death do us part. We ain't moving. We have one in Wisconsin, one in Illinois, one in Wyoming, and one in California. All American family. So that's our adventure.
That sure is.
Yeah, we moved, I don't know how many houses we've lived in. Gosh.
We were too used to that. That's why I still can't believe we live in the same house 34 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I left out the Walnut part.
Oh, yes.
2 years in Illinois, Walnut Church.
Oh, that's right. That was a back and forth trek.
Yeah. Gee. And we lived in 3 houses in Walnut.
Yes.
We just,
A red one, white one, and the parsonage.
and we've lived, how many here now?
4.
4.
Fort Toledo, Elder, East Lane. Oh, 5.
Balance.
Valence, and now here, 5. Yeah. Well, we've been here for almost 40 years, though, too, now, in this area.
Yeah, 1981.
Well, it's a gypsy in the blood, I guess. It's just
35 years.
always moving.
But I think our dads came from the same gems, because my dad, without a high school diploma, graduation, did all of the architecture and the building. And
Yeah.
Did he ever go back to get his GED?
No,
Really? Oh, good.
yeah. But, I mean, I've got plans for my dream house that I finally got to take mechanical drawing when I was a senior, junior, senior.
Yeah, her dad was sharp too. Boy.
They were such a creative
Your
generation.
mom home here?
Supervisor,
So
Oh,
resourceful.
okay.
he built wineries. He built that old folks home.
Yeah, it's like St. James Plaza, only it's a different name by Calvary. There's 3 houses, 3 whatever.
He was so good at buying materials.
Yeah.
He knew how to get stuff.
And also getting jobs done before the contract was due.
Yeah, he was.
So